And welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing a before and after as per usual, but not in the usual way. We do not have a box of goodies, we have a kitchen counter covered in bubble wrap and fossils, because all of these fossils do not fit in a standard box. It's the joy of them. They're not necessarily a lot of them, but there's a few and they're all quite big. And it's not just ammonites, we've got a bit of a diversity of finds as well, spanning everything from the middle lias all the way up to the uppermost lias of Yorkshire. So without further ado, we're going to start on the first one. What we have here is an Amauroceras. This is the first one I've ever found. It's in a little what we call Pleuroceras block, with this red and brown shelly matrix. It tends to have a different type of ammonite called a Pleuroceras. This here, though, as I said, is an Amauroceras. They're these lovely flat sort of disc-shaped ammonites that look a little bit like some other ones that we find, some pseudolioceras in the upper lias and oxynoticeras in the lower lias. And as I said, this was the first I found in a trip to Horsker and then to North Robin Hood's Bay. On that trip, we also found one other one.
Well, I had a little Amauroceras. This one is a bit bigger, it's a bit squished, and it's still a bit under there. But just was checking because I honestly wasn't sure if that edge there was bivalve or what. Same on this side, as you can just see. It's kind of was just a bit of a tease, but it looks like it's a bit crushed, and so that'll go in the bag. That's quite a nice find if it's all there underneath that last bit of matrix.
This is a very different sized Amauroceras. This is the big one I found on that same trip. Just to give you a scale, the little one is about the size of my thumbnail, and yeah, it's about the same as the middle of the big one, but the big one is much bigger. It's more like the size of my hand, so something like 7 inches across, and beautiful in my opinion. This one is missing some of this outermost whorl, which is why it has this unusual shape, and the center, where you'd normally expect it to be in the middle of the nodule, is quite a long way off center, which has had some erosion. But that erosion is what gave me the indication that it was there. I wasn't actually sure if it was a shell block, which you do get some really big bivalves. You can see this edge here, which is the indication that there was a shell or some form of shell in there. But it was the giveaway that it was an ammonite. And when I tapped it on the beach, we exposed some of the shell, and this lovely white and black shell is a lovely feature of this fossil. Next, we're going to jump from the middle lias all the way up to the upper lias and upper lias of Yorkshire.
Right, bit of a game for you all. I've spotted the fossil. I'm hoping this one should be fairly straightforward, but I actually don't know what the species of ammonite is just yet. So, you seen it? Right there. I think it's a grandma. If it will come up. Yeah. Oh, it is huge. That's awesome.
This is a Grammoceras. I collect a lot of Grammoceras because I go to Ravenscar a lot. Ravenscar full of multi-Grammoceras blocks, but this is a big Grammoceras. I don't know the exact species, but I doubt it's the classical Torrens species, which is the one that all the multi-blocks tend to be. But as you go up the sequence towards the very top, they tend to get bigger, and this is one of the really big ones, because most of them are sort of from where my thumb is and inwards, so much smaller. So a beautiful upper lias ammonite, even with a few little cracks and creases and all the imperfections, which are part of the things that I love about fossils. Then we're going to jump to something that isn't an ammonite.
Here's something I've never seen before. This is a big gastropod, so the top of it here, and then you've got effectively whorls going down, so one of the big coiled snails. It's on the other side too. I feel like I have to take that. I don't tend to collect them, but I know a lot of people who do, and I suspect I can give that to someone to have a look at. But yeah, different, very different.
This is a very upper lias gastropod. This comes out of what I believe to be the blue white sandstones, only found at Ravenscar, at least on the Yorkshire coast. So this is the uppermost parts of the lias, And unlike a lot of the fossils which have their original shell still preserved, the shell on these tends to dissolve away, and what you get left with is the internal sort of cast remnants of the fossil. So the shell fills with sediment, the shell then erodes, and what you're left with is the infill. And that's what seems to have happened in this instance. But it's a beautiful example of what we call a gastropod. These are marine shells, a bit like marine snails. But for some reason in the Mesozoic, the dinosaur times, gastropods are a lot less common than they are today. Today we see shells and snails all over the beach, but in the Mesozoic and the dinosaur times, including the Jurassic, gastropods are a lot less common, and big ones like this are quite uncommon. And for some reason we do not seem to find very many of them in the lias sections of Yorkshire, except small ones, and they tend to be more common in the lower lias sediments. So a beautiful example, and one I did contemplate not picking up at the time, but I'm glad I did, and I know there's quite a few people watching who are also glad I did pick this up. And my favorite piece of all. Yeah, that I think is a Nautilus. He's not super pretty, whichever it is, but hey, it's a whirl. It's got a really big mouth, what it looks like at least. God, I hope I'm not making things up, but that is exactly what that looks like. Amazing. From out of camera, this is a Nautilus, and we do get Nautiluses all the way up through the sequence. They're still alive today. In fact, you can find a couple of species living in the Pacific Ocean. That I think is the nicer side, but as you can see, it is not perfect. It would not be one of my fossils if it was. But this side is actually preserved really well. You can see the shell, including these sort of longitudinal lines within the shell, and on the other side, perhaps less so, you can actually see some of the lines where the chambers separate things, preserved in more pyrite. It has this really unusual crushing damage directly behind what looks like, I mean, I don't think it's the actual body chamber, but gives the appearance of the body chamber, this big section up the top here. Whether this is due to predation, I know it's fun to imagine something has been chewing on this, or this not even an ammonite, it's a Nautilus. But I do not believe that's the case. I might be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, because it'd be a lot more interesting. But I think this is just crushing that we tend to see in a lot of ammonites. We also got this other bit of crushing here, so maybe we can just pretend that it's been nibbled on. But Nautiluses themselves are particularly unusual in the upper lias sediments. They do occur, but they don't tend to come out that often. That week before Christmas, however, it was a really unusual week. This one I found at Saltwick Bay. I know Matt Lawson found a beautiful one at Port Mulgrave, which has been polished up by Mark Hawkes from Stone Treasures. If you haven't seen it yet, go check out the Fossiliferous YouTube channel. It's beautiful. And I know Liam, for Forgotten Fossils, Liam Langley, he also had one that he found at Ravenscar, which is still getting prepared as far as I'm aware. But yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful fossil. And the first one in my collection, one that was on my my to find list for 2025. And funnily, I found it straight after my video recording, saying this was on my list to find in 2024. Found it just before Christmas. But a beautiful one to add to the collection. Right then, it's time to get on to the giveaway. I know everyone's super excited for this. It's a nice Hildy, and everyone loves a good Hildy, me included. What I've done is every comment on videos from the initial video and the Sands and Fossil Hunting video on the 28th of February, if the word giveaway appeared in your comments at any point, you are entered into the giveaway. So here's all of the people and all of the names of people who have given a good comment. What I have done for each of those people is I've given you a random number, this formula in Excel. What I will do in a second is I'll sort these two columns by column C, which is your random number. Sort by column C, smallest to largest. I'll repeat this 5 times, and whoever's at the top at the end of 5 times is the winner. So let's get it started. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so the winner is Steve Jones. If you did not win, I'd like to apologize. But there will be some more giveaways when we hit 1,500 subscribers, and also when we can start monetizing the channel properly via YouTube. So there'll be multiple giveaways coming up. What I will ask you to do then is to make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you're not already, and make sure you keep engaging with the content. The more you engage, the more you watch, the more you comment, the better it helps the channel do, and the more it helps me in the long run, and the more giveaways I'll be able to do. So thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll be in touch with Steve Jones shortly.